Today we'll be talking about AltKeyboard for iOS 8. So much has happened with AltKeyboard in the past month that I needed to make a video and wanted to make a video to talk about what it looks like, where is it going in the future, and how it works right now. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get started. So here we go, guys. When you launch up the app for the very first time, I've already set up the keyboard through settings, but you can actually go there and set it up, and of course you have to allow full access because this is actually going to be a keyboard from the App Store. This is not a Cydia tweak or jailbreak tweak from the past, or it's not being ported to iOS 8 or redone for iOS 8. This is going to be a legitimate third-party keyboard or third-party app that you can go download on the App Store and use throughout your device. And that's good and bad for quite a few reasons, but I'll talk about those in a little bit. Let's take a closer look at AltKeyboard. So once we launch up the AltKeyboard app, you guys can see that at its core, AltKeyboard pretty much looks the same as it always has. At the top of the key, there's a little faded gray number or character that when you swipe up on that respective key, you're going to get that respective character printed on the top of that key. And this is my favorite keyboard that I've ever used. I want to tell you guys up front, the concept of this is hands down my favorite keyboard. Sure, swipe is cool where you can go from letter to letter, but I love having just a normal keyboard and being able to type numbers at the top. I mean, if you're trying to just say like, oh, we're going to meet at 12 o'clock, I can just do QW, D, or you can even do a smiley face like this. If you swipe up on D and then down on D to do a capital letter. Like, it's so cool that you can just input characters that fast without even having to travel to the alternate characters keyboard by hitting the 1, 2, 3 in the bottom left-hand corner. But moving on to more parts of AltKeyboard, if we tap on the numerical keyboard button in the bottom left-hand corner, of course, we've got many alternate keys on a lot of the different little buttons here. And then, of course, one more behind that is the final character keyboard, which by default has no alternate characters printed on top of it, just because of the fact that it's the last keyboard or last section of the keyboard to show. There's really nowhere else to go from here. Now, like I said, there's an option that's very cool. If we tap on the settings icon, we can display alt keys on the character keyboard. So if I enable that in the configuration section and then head just right on back to the character keyboard section, there we go, guys. We actually have the numerical keyboard printed on top of that. So if you want to see these keys, there's definitely an option for you to do that, which is awesome. Like, I was actually shocked at the amount of customization that you could do with this keyboard, which is awesome. And at the core, that is AltKeyboard. That is what it does. Swipe up to get an alternate character on any of the keys that show an alternate character, and when the shift key is not selected, swipe down to input a capital letter. Now, before I move on to some more of my opinions about AltKeyboard, I wanted to show you guys some of the configuration options, because like I said, there are quite a few to talk about. And the first one, which is very cool, is that you have the ability to set your alternate characters. If you want these to be different, you can go in here and change them. If you don't want there to be numbers on the top row of the keyboard, you can change that to be letters or symbols. Anything you want it to be just by tapping on one. Let's say I don't want it to be 1, let's say I want it to be 77 for the purpose of this video. I'm just going to simply type in 77 like that, hit done, and watch what happens when I go back to the keyboard. It doesn't show 1 anymore. It's going to show you 77, which is so cool. I mean, the ability to customize this thing on a key-by-key basis is just really awesome. So glad to see that they added that in. Down below are options for setting alternate characters. Of course, we can choose which keyboards we want to show alternate characters on. And then below that are our options for showing what we want to happen when we flick up or flick down on a key. Now, by default, it's what I showed you guys earlier, flick up for a alternate character, and flick down for a capital letter. If you want to, you can invert these or disable one or the other, or both entirely if that's the way you want to set up the keyboard. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the way it's set up by default, so I'm just going to leave those like that. But down below is probably my favorite option of the entire keyboard, when it works that is, and that is the cursor seek settings. If you are looking in a large field of text, let me just head over to my notes app, you can slide it from the very left to the very right of the keyboard, just like that, and you can scroll throughout the text by simply sliding your finger from the left side to the right side, or the right side to the left side on the keyboard. And like I said earlier, this has got to be my favorite feature. It is just so much fun to move your finger and have the cursor move along with it. Moving on to the last 3 options for AltKeyboard, we've got one under keyboard style, and we can make it context aware, so based on the settings of the app, it's going to show up darker, it's going to show up lighter, or if we always want to see dark, we can choose that there. If I hit done, you guys can see it goes to dark just like that, even though it's made for a white UI. And then finally, there's the last option for light. If we always want it to show up light no matter what, we have that option as well. Down below, we've got a small toggle for auto correction, and below that, we have one for lowercase keyboard. I will leave both of those on for now because when they work, they're very useful. As of right now, this is everything I have on AltKeyboard, and in its current state, AltKeyboard is definitely not ready to go on the App Store. It's buggy a lot, alt characters don't work sometimes, and third-party keyboards in general are still terrible on iOS 8, which I hate. Like, you would think by iOS 8.3 coming up on iOS 8.4 that third-party keyboards would have gotten better, or at least their implementation, but they're still pretty darn bad, which is disappointing because like I said earlier, AltKeyboard hands down is my favorite keyboard that I've ever used. I really enjoy using it when it works. The only problem is that right now it doesn't just work like myself and even the Apple thinks it should. So that's why it's been delayed. Unfortunately, it's been delayed indefinitely. So literally, we have no idea when it's going to be coming out. Trust me guys, if I had a release date, I was given permission to share it with you guys. I don't have one. Even the Apple has no clue whatsoever because they were about to submit this to the App Store. But when they realized the user feedback from myself and a few others who were very lucky to get into the beta, they realized that we didn't like it that much and it just was not ready to go out on the iOS App Store. So bravo to the Apple for being man enough to do that. AltKeyboard is awesome. I just can't wait for it to get a little bit better than it is right now. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like down below and of course subscribe for more exclusive content on AltKeyboard in the future. This has been Sam with iUpdateOS. Have a great day, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.